Hey, hi everyone. This is Sai from LetsUpgrade. So let's talk about how to get your certificate. It's very simple. You will see two links in the description. Number one is the place where you have to go and mark your attendance. Marking your attendance tells us like, okay, you are a legit student who have attended this particular session. Link number two is your assignment. This is where your 90% of the priority is. You have to go and submit the assignment that is given to you in this particular session. Once you're done submitting that assignment, we will be evaluating that. We will send you an email. If you get the passing criteria, then only we will give you the certificate on a particular date that is mentioned again in the description. Please check these three things, and this is the way how you will get a certificate from Let's Upgrade. Number one, mark your attendance. Number two, just go ahead and upload your assignment. Check for the email that you have received it, yes or no. What is the feedback that you have received from your trainer? Number three, check on which date the certificates will be released. Thank you. Bye. All the best. Happy learning.
Okay, so now since we've already seen how for each works and it is a traversing technique, so now let's take our discussion one level up. Now we will see what are the different types of array methods we have in JavaScript and when can we use each, right, depending upon the use case, and we will see some examples as well. Okay, so firstly we're going to talk, I'll just comment this out. Yeah, and okay, so firstly we're going to talk about map, right? So what in short map does, right, it is used to transform, it is again a technique which is used to modify or transform, I would say, an array. It is used to transform an array, right? Now how does it works? So first of all, what it does, it returns a new array, right? It returns a new, and one of the most important thing about a map is, which the interviews focus upon, is that it does not modify the original array, right? It does not modify the original array. Now I'll walk you through an example. What do I mean by it returns a new array, and also what do we mean by that it does not modify the original array? So let's look at here. So we already have this fruits made, right? We already have an array which contains fruits like apple, banana, cherry. Later on we pushed grapes, and then we have mango, right? So in this fruits array I'll have all these 5 fruit names. Okay, now let's suppose what I want to do is I want to convert each and every fruit name into a capitalized letter. That means each and every alphabet of every fruit should be capitalized, right? Now we could think of a solution to do that, right? There are multiple solutions to do that, but when we talk about the solution, we talk about the most optimized solution and the most easy to use solution, and that is nothing but using a map here. So let's see how can we use a map to capitalize each and every letter of this fruit name into capital letters. So what I'll do is, so first of all, as I told you, it returns a new array. So since it returns a new array, I need to name that new array. I can say const, I can say something like uppercase, or I can say upper fruits, right? Now this array, it will be a new array which will be derived from my original array, which is the fruits array, but both these array will be different because, as I told you, right, it does not modify the original array, it creates a new array. So that means we'll now have two arrays. Let us see. Okay, now to capitalize the fruit names, we obviously first of all have to map, right? That means we have to traverse through an array, because this is an array which has indexes, and I cannot capitalize each and every word if I do not traverse. Will only help, traversing is the only thing which will help me to get in touch of each and every fruit names one by one. So what I can do is I can use something like upper fruits, which is a new array. I'll do fruits dot map, right? Now this map will actually traverse through my original array, which is my fruits array. right? Herein it takes in a callback, right? A callback is nothing but a function. It takes in a function which will compute, or which will, uh, carry out the logic behind it, right? So what I can do is I can say that for each fruit, right, for each fruit, what do you do is you take in the fruit one by one and you make it to the uppercase. So we can use to uppercase here, right, like this. So what will this do? This will do nothing but, this single piece of line of code, it will traverse through the whole array using map helps us to traverse. And for each and every fruit which is which is being denoted by fruit here, it will do fruit dot uppercase. So for on first iteration, it will take in apple. Now for apple, right, now the value of fruit is apple in on the first iteration. It does apple dot to uppercase. Now if you do apple dot to uppercase, the apple, this will be converted into uppercase, like all the letters will be converted into uppercase. Now in the next iteration, once we come, I'll take in consider banana. Now this fruit will contain banana, and I'll do fruit dot uppercase, that is banana dot uppercase. Similarly, it will go on through all of my array, right? A better way to do it, because we're not using seeing what pushes, we already know what pushes. I can what I can do is I can copy this, I can paste it here, I can copy this as well. So grapes is done, we can do mango, and I can do this as well. So this is how it works. Now after all, what I can do is I can console.log, right? Now once I console.log fruits, just see the difference, right? Just see how, sorry, not fruits, upper fruits, because upper fruit contains the capitalized words, right? So I'll come to JavaScript, or you know what, I'll just erase this. I'll do cd, wait, I'll do cd JavaScript, and in this we have a file called as script.js. So I'll do node script.js, and as you can see, once we run the output, this is the output that we get. I'll Yeah, okay. So now you can see that all my fruit names are capitalized, right? That means it has returned a new array, which is the name of this. And just to prove you that it does not modify the original array, I'll also console.log the fruits, which is this array. Okay, I'll console.log both of these. If I again run it, see, here it is. This is the original array, right? And this is the array that we got by running map and returning a new array, which is upper fruits. So I hope this maps makes things clear. So if you want to, transform any array, make some changes in the array by, taking in care that it returns a new array to us, we'll not need to take care of the mapping. It automatically, traverses the array, places the array at the particular indexes, it matches the indexes, and it returns you a new array. It is as simple as that. If you look at it in terms of its efficiency, and in terms of its practicality, right? So this was map for you. Now similarly, we have one more array method which is used a lot, right? Use a lot in terms of filtering things out, in terms of placing, stuffs, or placing elements into your array based on certain conditions. Or if you fetch in some data from the server and you only want to display a particular piece of the data, not the whole data, this is very used. And this important method is nothing but a filter, right? Now as the name suggests, filter, right, it is used to filter out results based on a condition, right? And just for a fact, that just to know, guys, as a fact, that majority of the times we use filter to filter out the results which we get from an API call. It is that much used. So pretty helpful, pretty useful. We'll see how does it do and how does it perform, right? So actually what it does, it, as I told you, it will filter items, as the name suggests, filter based on some condition, right? So maybe I'll just write it here: filter items based on some condition. right? And this condition could be literally anything which we can define in our callback function, right? It could be anything, right? Numbers, maybe numbers greater than 20, numbers greater than 40, even numbers. We want to, from a list of array, we only want to filter out the even numbers. We can do that on all of these things, right? And most importantly, right, it will return a new array, right? And here is the interesting catch, and here it is why it is different with the map, right? It returns a new array. This is similar, right? This also map does, but with only the items that match the condition. So I'll write it here with the with the items with only the items that match the condition. Now what do I mean by that? Let's suppose you want to filter out all the numbers which are greater than 30, right? We have a list of array, we want to filter out all the numbers which are greater than 30. So because it is a filter array, it will filter out the results, it will filter out the elements which are greater than 30, and it will only include elements which lie into that result, not all the arrays. Because it's a filter array, right? It makes sense to only include items which are passing the criteria, passing the condition, not all. So that's why we use it. So let us take an example. So what I'll do is I'll do const numbers. Let's take that example only, filter out numbers which are greater than 30. In this I can take in numbers, right? I can take in, let's suppose, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, right? Maybe 110, maybe let's take it till 150, 120, 130, 140, and 150. Now the next thing here is to traverse the array, right? And filter can do it. So all the methods that we are discussing, map, filter, and all the methods we'll discuss later on, they all traverse, right? They are traverse, just like for each which we discussed here, like it travels just like any other methods we do. Array methods, they all traverse. So that part is sorted, right? We know that if you use filter, it will traverse all the array. Now the next part, since we discussed that it returns a new array, that means we have to make a new array. So I can say const, and I can say, let's suppose, greater than 30. If you want to find out all the numbers greater than 30, equals to, right? And now I will take in my original array, which will be nothing but numbers. And to this numbers, I need to apply a filter, or I need to apply an array method which will traverse, which is nothing but filter. And this takes in a callback, right? Which can be num. This name could be anything. It will just use to denote the individual elements in your array, and it will be nothing but, now I can say I want to get all the numbers which are, let's suppose, greater than 30. And lastly, if I console.log greater than 30, this will give me all the results which are greater than 30. So technically in my greater than 30 array, I should have numbers starting from 40 till 150. This condition could be anything. That is not an issue. That is not our area of concern. Our area of concern is to just understand how it works behind the scenes. Now I'll clear out my console and I will run the code again. So as you can see, in my array, I get all the numbers which are starting with 40, which is greater than 30 by the way, and ends at 150. If you want, you can also write condition like and num should be less than, right? So condition could be up to you. So if we run this one, I'll get all the results from 30, between, like, greater than 30 and less than 100, which is nothing but 40, 50, 60, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and 90, right? And just to prove that we make the changes only in the array, only in the new array and not the original array, we can do something like console.log numbers. See, so if we do this, this is our greater than 30 array, which is the new array which filter method returns us, or it has returned us. And this is the original array, which was nothing but numbers, right? So this tells a lot of things about map and filter. First of all, that both map and filter help us to traverse. That means iterate. And map returns all the elements, right? It cannot filter out, it returns all the elements, but you can transform your array if you want to. As simple as that. And where should we use filter? We should use filter wherein we want to only get a specific set from an array, and this could be based on some condition. Just like in this case, I've done that it should be greater than 30 and less than 100. The condition could be up to you. So if anyone now asks you what is the difference between a map method and a filter method, I assume you guys know what to do, right? So a map method only helps you transforming the array. It helps you traverse, and you can literally modify your array. Second thing is it does not modify the original array, and third thing is it returns a new array with all the elements which are included inside your map, or which are included inside your original array. Now in case of a filter helps you push only the elements which match a specific condition, right? Same thing goes here as well. It returns a new array, and it returns a new array but with only the elements which match the condition, all the indexes in your array. So I hope this makes sense, and I hope the fundamental difference between the most array methods, which is filter and map, is pretty much clear to you. All right, so with that, let me comment this out first. Okay, with that, let us move to one more method, right? One more method which is again used a lot, not as much as map and filter, but again it's very important, and that is nothing but reduce, right? Now what does it do, right? So in short, as the name suggests, it reduces an array to a single value, right? I'll just write it down for you first. It reduces an array to a single value. Now it is used if you want to maybe get used for, I would say, for some, maybe if you want to get or want to find out the product of the elements in an array, right? Or any other mathematical computation. So I'll just write etc, right? So it is very simple. First of all, what I'll do is I'll again declare an array. I'll say const arr equals to 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. Now my requirement is that I need to sum up all these arrays. Let's suppose a very basic and simple example, right? And now let's suppose you do not know what a reduce method is. Now how would you sum up, right? First of all, what I can think is you can traverse using a loop, right? A for loop, a while loop. You can take in a sum, calculate the sum, and get rid of this, right? It will be a very tedious task, not a tedious task, but it will be a lengthy task than using this reduce array. So reduce array actually helps you get rid of this task. Now using reduce, what you can do is you can do something like const sum equals to, now I can just use my array and the reduce function. I can say arr dot reduce. Now it takes in two parameters. One is the accumulator and one is the number. Now you must be wondering, what is this accumulator and what is this this num? So accumulator is nothing but accumulator, it is the initial value from which the counting will start, right? Maybe let's suppose I want to start my sum from 100, or I want to start my sum from 1000, right? So this gives you a flexibility to where to start your sum. So I'll just write ACC, which is nothing but which acts as an accumulator. I'll just write the full form as well. Accumulator, it by default it starts from 0, which is the initial value, but you can change it, right? Starts from 0 by default, right? And one more thing is nothing but a value which will get added to your accumulator. For example, if you run the code once, or let's suppose the code is at its first iteration, in that case, what will happen is your accumulator will be, let's suppose, 0. So 0 plus num, or any other number or any other name you get, it will be 1. Next iteration, the num would be 1, right? And it will now come to the next iteration, it will be num plus the next element, which is num plus 2, which is 3. So 2 plus 1 is 3. Then num is 3 now, so in the next iteration it will add one more element, 3 plus 3, which is 6. So accordingly it will keep on adding. So one is num, I'll say each num gets added to accumulator, right? As simple as that. Now let us see actually, how it works. So I'll take in accumulator, I'll take in num. Now as I told you, it num, it keeps on adding sums to my accumulator. So something like accumulator plus num. So on the first iteration, my accumulator is 0, because I've specified 0 here. Like, you have to specify 0 like this, and it starts from 0. So 0 plus 1 is 1. Now my accumulator becomes 1. So I'll just write it for you. So in the first iteration, so first iteration, now in the first iteration, the value of accumulator is 0, and I do accumulator plus num. So initially num is 1, num equals 1, because it's the first iteration. Now in this case, I'm doing accumulator plus num, which is 0 plus 1, which is 1. So now my new result is 1, and this result will get stored inside the accumulator. So that means my accumulator has also now changed, is also now equal to the result, which is equal to nothing but 1. Now in the second iteration, what happens is I'll do accumulator plus num. Now what is accumulator? Accumulator is 1, right? So it is nothing but 1 plus num. Now what is num in the second iteration? It is 2. So it is nothing but 1 plus 2, which is equal to nothing but 3. So in this case, my result will now be 3. Also my accumulator will now be 3. So the next time in the third iteration, if I come to, it will be accumulator plus num, which will be 3. The accumulator is 3 and num is also 3. So 3 plus 3 is 6. So just like this, it will traverse through the whole array. I hope you got the gist of it. It will traverse through the whole array, and I'll get the sum of my elements. So if I do console.log, sum, in this sum, so if I clear this out, and if I run nodescript.js, and I get the sum as 21. Let us see. So 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 3 is 6, 6 plus 4 is 10, 10 plus 5 is 15, 15 plus 6 is 21, and I'm getting the result. An interesting fact here is the use of initializer. So let's suppose I initialize it not from 0, I want to initialize it from 10. That means I'll get whatever the exact sum is plus 10. So if I run the code again, in this case, see, I am getting 31. That is, 10 is being added at the initial level of my accumulator. And I hope this is making absolutely sense. So in short, we have discussed three most important array methods. We started with, right, we know how map works. We then we saw the use of filter, and finally we saw the use of reduce, which is used for aggregations like sum, product, etc. Right? This is what it is. So this is what it is. These are the most widely used, I would say, array methods, although there are some other methods as well which we might use, or which we might use as a replacement for some methods, but I'll leave that up to you. Just do some research on other array methods which are used, but if you know exactly how to use these ones, you should be good to go at the initial phases itself, right? Okay, so now once we are done with that, we'll move to next steps, and now we will start with objects, right? So this object is solely I would say personalized to JavaScript. What do I mean by that is, if you're someone who is coming from C++ background, or who is coming from a Java background, we don't usually have objects there, right? But in the coming of JS, we were introduced with objects. Now what are objects, right? They behave like in similar terms with an array, but they have very vast difference, right? So an object is nothing but it is a collection of properties, right? And it stores data just like array does in key value pairs, right? I'll say is a collection of data in specially key value pairs. Now what do I mean by key value pairs? So key value pair is nothing. For example, I'll just take an example. I'll say const person equals to, now I'll have a key and I'll have a value. So for key, I'll say that name is Ritik, separated by a comma. You can have n number of key value pairs. Let's suppose age I do as 26. Let's suppose designation I do it as a manager, right? So if you look at the syntax, here, this name here acts as a key which has Ritik as its value. Similarly, age here acts as a key which has 26 as its value. And designation here also acts as a key which has manager as its value. So if I try to console.log this, this is what you will get. So just see, this array is denoted by not a square solid bracket but by a curly bracket. So how can you distinguish between an array and an object in terms of visual appearance? One is like this, right? It has, if you console.log an object, it will have a curly bracket with its key and value, right? So name Ritik, age 26, designation a manager, right? So this is how you can do it. And this is nothing but this is an object, right? It consists of a collection of data which is stored in a key value pair. Apart from this, there is, I would say, a key. Let's suppose I do not want this whole key. I just want that from the object person. I want to access the age of this person. So if you want to do this, I can do something like console.log person dot age, right? So if I do something like person dot age, I'll get 26. That means I'll only get a specific value, and this is nothing but, see, as you can see, we have a dot here. This is nothing but this is known as a dot notation. That means we are trying to access a value which is inside of your object using a dot notation. Similarly, if you want to access the name, you can also do that. If I do something like person dot name, and if I console.log this, I will get Ritik. So 26 is coming from age and Ritik is coming from person dot name. This is one way. The other way to access, apart from a dot notation, sorry, not it is a dot notation, is using a square bracket notation. Similarly, if you want to do something like, let's suppose I want to access the age again, I can do something like person age, just like you do it in an array if you want to access something. Similarly, if you want to access the name, you can do something like person and name. So this will help us access, and this is called as a square bracket bracket notation, right? So if I comment this and if I run the code again, wait, it says age is not defined. Okay, this has to be in quotes. Okay, I hope this makes sense. If you're using the square notation, just make sure to include it in string, because this technically, how does JS behave? If you write any key, JavaScript technically behind the scenes converts every key into a string. right? So if you do something like name, or if you do something like strings name, it is the same thing. If you do not write strings here, just like you does not have any string, it will behind the scenes convert it into a string, right? So if you're accessing it, you have to access it using strings notation. So if I run the code again, and as you can see, I get the result. Oh, from where I'm getting 31. Wait. Okay. It is coming from here. I'll comment this as well. Okay. So as you can see, from both the accessing techniques using the dot notation as well as the square bracket notation, we are getting the same output, which is 26 Ritik, 26 and Ritik, right? I hope this makes sense. Now, apart from this, we also have a way to add a new key, just like we have a way to add a new index in an array using the shift, or using what do you call this notation, which is nothing but push. Similarly, we also, if you want to push a new key value pair, we can do that. So how can we do it? Let's suppose the object name is person. I can do something like person dot, and I can mention which key I want to. Let's suppose I want to have a city, and I give it any city. Let's suppose New Delhi. I can do that. So now if I console.log my person, it will have a new key added to it with a key city and a value as New Delhi. So if I clear out the console, if I run the code again, see, I have name, I have age, I have designation. This is fine. This was already there, but I also have a new key value pair, which is nothing but city, and which has a value called as New Delhi, right? As simple as that. Okay. Okay. Now, since we have added a new property, we can, if you want to, we can also perform updations on a new property. So if you want to update a new key, you can do something like person dot, and obviously update will only happen if the key is there, right? It makes no sense to update a key if it does not exist. So age already exists. Let's suppose I want to change the age from 26 to 31, and as simple as that, we are good to go. If I again run, if I again do console.log person, see, now instead of 26, the age becomes 31, right? So this is nothing but adding a new key. This is nothing but updating the key, right? As simple as that. Okay. And also, if you want to delete any key, you can also do that. You can use a delete keyword for that. So if I do something like delete person dot city, if I do this, if I run the object again, so this city will now be deleted. As you can see, there is no key by the name city here. As simple as that, right? So this is what you can use. This is what you can play around with objects, right? And you can, as I told you, it is a collection of data which stores a value in a key value format. And if you want to store any data which has multiple things to it, which has multiple keys to it, you can do that, right? Also, there is also a method which can help you access all the keys. So if you do something like object dot keys, and in the keys, if you pass in the object name, it can help you get the keys, or all the keys of that particular object. So in this case, my object is person. So if I do person, and if I console.log it, I will get all the keys, right? All the keys are nothing but your name, your age, and your designation. Similarly, just like this, we also have a way to access all the values which are present inside a particular object. In this case, you can do something like console.log object dot, instead of keys, now you use values, and you do person. So if you do this, if you run the code again, it behaves something like this. So these are nothing but all the values which come from this line. Sorry, these are nothing but all the keys which come from line number 164, which is nothing but object.keys person. And this comes from line number 166, which is nothing but all the values inside a particular object. So this is how you can do it. And right, so we have seen what objects are, right? They're fundamental in JS, right, making them essential for you can use stuff like storing or organizing data, and you can perform some operations with it, right? So they are somewhat on similar lines with array, but there's a vast difference, right? Array can only store index and a value. We cannot rename the index is already fixed, right? It starts from 0, index 0, index 1, index 2. But in case of an object, you can specify which key you want, how you want to name your key, right? Technically, if you see, indexes are also keys, right? Key values. At a particular key, we have a particular element that is a particular value. But in case of an object, you can have the power to rename your keys as well. This is how it works. I hope you got the difference between an array and object, and you now know what an object is.